The Vikings lose another home game. This year, the Vikings have had no home field advantage, and it makes sense. I mean, usually the US Bank Stadium is a huge home field advantage with all the fans there, with all the crowd noise, the skull chant, everything. There has been no home field advantage. In fact, we have played worse at home than we have on away games. Vikings are 3-5. That is our fifth and final loss at home. Vikings have been 3-5 at home this season so far. Usually there's a lot more home field advantage, but understandably, there is not much this year so far. And this Vikings defense loses us another game, allowing 33 points to one of the worst offenses in the NFL. The Vikings are now 0-5 against Mitchell Trubisky, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're 0-5 against him. And this Vikings defense has got to be the worst defense I've seen from this Vikings team in the last few years. They are awful. There's no pass rush. We can't stop the run. We can't even disrupt the pass in most of the plays. I mean, that's our best part of our defense right now. Our rookie corners are looking like our best part of our defense with Eric Kendricks out, with Danielle Hunter out, with Anthony Barr out, and then also losing Everson Griffin. There's so many pieces that have to do with how bad this Vikings defense is looking right now. And then we do have Harrison Smith, who is causing some disruption to the pass. So our secondary is looking better than our run stop right now and is looking better than our pass rush right now. Our defense is that bad. And our secondary is not looking very good either. As a whole, the defense is just terrible. And that's the reason why we lost this game. And that's the reason why the Vikings are not going to make the playoffs this year. You can't point the finger at Kirk Cousins. You cannot for this game or even the season as a whole. Of course, the first 5 weeks you can. Of course, the first half of the season, you can definitely point the finger at Kirk Cousins. But this last few games, we have looked so bad because of this Vikings defense. And it has to do with Eric Kendricks not being out there because Eric Kendricks was carrying our defense for the first half of the season. And look, our defense is looking awful is all I'm saying. Our defense looks terrible, and giving up 33 points to the worst offense in the NFL. Yes, I'm going to call them the worst. Okay, they're probably bottom 5 offense in the NFL. They might not be the worst, but still, how do you allow over 100 yards to David Montgomery on the ground? Of course, he's been having a few good games, but still, we have Todd Davis. We are very lucky to have Todd Davis. We have Harrison Smith. We can stop big runs from David Montgomery. I just don't understand it. This Vikings defense is terrible without Eric Kendricks. I mean, it doesn't even look like a defense out there. Now, we allowed 146 rushing yards to David Montgomery. He's not a great running back. He is a good running back. He's not a great running back. You should not allow this many yards to him. We need that loss, and we need more losses so we can get a defensive tackle in next year's draft. Someone who can rush the passer without blitzing. At this point, we can't even get to the quarterback if we're not blitzing. We don't get to the quarterback with a Fadi. We don't get to the quarterback with Wanham. We don't get to the quarterback anywhere on the defensive line without Danielle Hunter. We can't get to the quarterback. Mitchell Trubisky was sacked one time yesterday, and that's because we blitzed Todd Davis. If we don't blitz, we don't pressure the quarterback. Fadi, I don't even know why Fadi is a defensive end. He is way too slow to be a defensive end. Way too slow. He's not a bad player, but he shouldn't be a defensive end. He should be an interior pass rusher. DJ Wanham should be a starting defensive end at this point. Jalen Holmes is another very slow defensive end. We have nobody. No pass rush on the defensive line. Our only pass rush is when we blitz players. Our only sack yesterday was when we blitzed Todd Davis. There is no pass rush on the line at all. Not only that, but we allowed 2 rushing touchdowns to David Montgomery. And one of them, they should not have allowed. One was a 1-yard rushing touchdown, whatever. The other one was just awful. He just ran right in. Anyways, we make Mitchell Trubisky look like a superstar. The Vikings defense is the reason why Trubisky has a job right now. Because every time he plays our defense, he looks great. Every time he plays our defense. Last time the Vikings played the Bears against Nick Foles, we did great. And of course, we had Eric Kendricks that game, so it was a whole different story when we had Eric Kendricks. But the Vikings defense looked great, and they didn't have Montgomery either. The starting running back was Cordero Patterson that game, so it was a whole different story. But we're going to be looking at all of the bad by this Vikings team, and it all comes from this defense. Also, why would they cut Mark Fields and Holton Hill? Or waive them, or whatever. Why? That is possibly the worst decision I have ever seen. The Vikings cutting Pat Elflein and cutting these corners that we need, because those are the 2 worst positions that we have right now. We suffer at guard and we suffer at cornerback, and then they cut all of our guys. Pat Elflein may not be a great guard, but he is a guy you should have on your team because he is better than Drew Samia, who you are rotating in. He is better than some of these guys. He might be better than Dakota Dozier at this point. We needed Pat Elflein. We needed Mark Fields. We needed Holton Hill. And they got rid of all of them. and they keep Chris Boyd and Chris Jones. I just combined the names right there because they have the same first name. They both are Chris. Why are you keeping them instead? I mean, you should have Chris Boyd because, of course, Chris Boyd, he is a special teams guy. Chris Boyd is not bad, but still, you get rid of Holton Hill and Mark Fields, and it doesn't make sense at all because of how much we need them. And yesterday showed Chris Jones is not a great cornerback. He is not. You can keep him on your team, whatever, because that's how much we need cornerbacks right now. You can keep him on your team, but why would you cut all of those guys? The Vikings defense is so bad where that loss yesterday was better than if we won that game. Yes, the Vikings could have made a playoff run. We can't do anything in the playoffs with this defense. We can't. Even with Eric Kendricks healthy, we can't do anything in the playoffs with this defense that the Vikings have. So it's better that we get a pick that's not in the 20s. We get a pick that's somewhere in the 10s, possibly trade up into the top 10, get a quarterback. I know it's not going to happen, but I'm going to talk about that as a possibility because it would be a smart decision. It's not going to happen though. Vikings are going to sit and they're going to wait for a defensive tackle or an offensive guard. Hopefully we can get one of those guys. Hopefully we can get a defensive tackle who knows how to rush the passer because I haven't seen that in a long time with this Vikings team. We can't even get to the passer with our defensive ends. They're so slow. Takes them about a year to get to the passer. Anyways, another negative. When we look at the offense, we look at one thing. Irv Smith dropping the pass. That was really the only negative we saw from this offense this entire game. Irv Smith has really suffered with dropped passes, and that's something that you have seen a lot of progression with. Last year, Irv Smith suffered a lot with drop passes. Of course, early this season he did, and then of course he has progressed. Irv Smith is a great tight end, and he might be our best tight end right now. Now, of course, Kyle Rudolph. If it's third down, throw to Kyle Rudolph over Irv Smith because he has a lot more experience and he's a lot better with catching. But Irv Smith, you can do a lot of things with. And I'm very happy what I see from Irv Smith and him dropping that touchdown. Him going to Irv Smith on 3rd and goal was not very smart in the first place, but still giving him another chance is great because he's likely going to be our starting tight end in 2021. I mean, I still don't know if the Vikings have the guts to cut or trade Kyle Rudolph. I don't know if they have it, but still, Irv Smith should be our starting tight end in 2021 nonetheless. Anyways, another bad, of course. We are out of the playoff race at this point. I mean, yes, the Vikings can make the playoffs. There is a possibility the Vikings can still make the playoffs. Who cares? Who cares? I don't care. Vikings are going to get all the playoffs and get humiliated anyways. Vikings can't go to the Super Bowl, not with the way this NFC is looking. We're not better than the Packers. We're not better than the Saints. We're not better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, any given Sunday we can beat any of those teams. Any given Sunday. But we're not going to win 3 in a row on the road. Although at this point, we look better on the road, so maybe that would probably be better than playing at home. Anyways, we're just not good. This defense is just not good enough for us to go to the Super Bowl. Our cornerbacks are all rookies. Our entire secondary looks like rookies at this point. And then we can't get to the passer at all. There's no way the Vikings are going to go to the Super Bowl, so who cares if we make the playoffs or not? That loss was better than if we won. Of course, I'm going to still be cheering for my Vikings because I cannot cheer against my Vikings, but at the same time, it's better that we get that we pick somewhere in the 10s. Somewhere in the 10s so we can get that offensive lineman, or we can get a defensive lineman who can rush the passer, because the Vikings can't get to the passer without blitzing at this point. Now that we don't have Yannick Ngakoue, now that we don't have Danielle Hunter, Danielle Hunter will be back, but now that we don't have Everson Griffin, we don't have anybody who can get to the passer at this point. Anyways, the good. This offense looks amazing. That first drive of the second half shows you the potential that our offense has. If Kirk Cousins can feel the blitz, if Kirk Cousins can feel being pressured, our offense can look so good because he can move around. Kirk can move around. You just see him so many times he doesn't. He allowed 3 sacks on him yesterday. And of course, the offensive line didn't have a great day because we never have a great day against the Chicago Bears. They get to us with ease every time we play the Chicago Bears. But still, Kirk Cousins, he did not have a bad day. He can feel the pressure. If Kirk Cousins knows how to feel the pressure, he can move around. That first drive of the second half shows you what our offensive can be. And it starts with Dalvin Cook. Of course, it doesn't start with Kirk Cousins. It starts with Dalvin Cook. Kubiak established the run early in the game against one of the best run-stopping defenses. Dalvin Cook rushed for 132 rushing yards on 24 carries, averaging 5.5 yards a carry, 27 receiving yards on 5 receptions, and a 1-yard touchdown run. Of course, if Kubiak can establish that run, our offense is going to look good. We have a great offense. We have one of the best offenses in the NFL, which is why we can win against this New Orleans Saints next week. We might be able to match the amount of points they can match. It's going to depend on how many points the Saints put up, but we might be able to match it. This offense looks great. And then outside of that, of course, Kirk has so many pieces to work with. Kirk has so many pieces to work with. Thielen, just 2 receptions yesterday. Thielen only saw 2 receptions, but again, it is against the Chicago Bears. You don't expect Thielen to have an amazing day. He had a great day against the Chicago Bears when we played them in Chicago, but that was like once in a blue moon. Thielen will have an amazing day against the Chicago Bears because he usually doesn't, but still 2 receptions, 11 yards, and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 8 receptions, 104 yards. Another 100-yard receiving game by Justin Jefferson. Again, we really needed Justin Jefferson this game. And they used him quite a bit. He did get 8 receptions and is now broke a franchise record for most receptions by a rookie in the Vikings history, and now has broke another Randy Moss record, and this adds to his 100-yard receiving game record. I think he is he at like 8 games with 100 yards receiving? I don't know, but he is having an amazing year, and we need Justin Jefferson. We need him at this point because against this New Orleans Saints, especially when Marshawn Lattimore is going to be guarding Adam Thielen, we need to use Justin Jefferson a lot more for this next game, and probably not against the Lions because, again, against the Lions, we can just feed Dalvin Cook and we'll get a win. That's our easiest path to victory right there. And then outside of that, Kyle Rudolph. We don't need Kyle Rudolph. I have said this. The Vikings do not need Kyle Rudolph, and we have seen it these last couple games. I didn't know Tyler Conklin was this great, but I knew Irv Smith was really good. And these guys combined for 6 receptions, 94 yards, and Conklin got his first NFL touchdown. In my preview for the Chicago Bears matchup, I said I think Conklin is going to get his first NFL touchdown, and he did. He is a great number 3 tight end and is possibly going to be our number 2 if we do get rid of Kyle Rudolph, which I really hope that the Vikings can get something for Kyle Rudolph. If the Vikings can even get a 4th-round draft pick for Rudy and turn that into a defensive lineman, or even an offensive guard, that will be a great trade for the Vikings. I really hope we can. Anyways, our tight end group is elite. Kyle Rudolph has so many pieces to work with. Chad Beebe can play from inside the slot, and he can make plays, get you first downs. He's a very big X factor. Even CJ Ham can play as a receiver. We can use so many playmakers on offense, and this Vikings offense is one of the best in the NFL. And if we had a good defense, we could compete for a Super Bowl. If the Vikings had just an okay defense yesterday, Vikings would have won that game, and we would probably be on top of the NFC North right now. If we had an okay defense. Just an okay defense. Vikings could be on top of the NFC North right now because that's how great our offense is. Our offense is so good. If the Vikings can establish that run, if the Vikings can use Dalvin Cook and establish that run early in the game, the entire offense looks amazing. Everybody looks great. Everybody has a great game when Dalvin Cook has a good game. And this is against one of the best run-stopping defenses in the NFL. He looked good against the best, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He rushed for over 100 yards as well. He's unstoppable. If Kubiak can establish that run, Vikings offense looks amazing. Outside of that, Dantzler and Gladney, they look great for rookie corners. I will say that right now. Yesterday, they looked like our best part of our defense was those young rookie corners. Defensive line looked awful. Linebackers did not look good at all. I mean, we are very lucky to have Todd Davis. I will say that right now. We are very lucky to have him. He's looking like a starter out there. But other than that, we see this Hardy Nickerson guy. We see Todd Davis out there. I mean, not Todd Davis. We see Troy Dye out there. These guys aren't looking very good, but we are very lucky to have Todd Davis because, of course, Anthony Barr being injured. There is Eric Kendricks being injured. We also have Eric Wilson. We are lucky to have that guy too. There was 2 reasons why the Vikings lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was the referees and that was Dan Bailey. It was a completely different story against the Chicago Bears, as Dan Bailey had a redemption game. Now, this is what we've needed from Dan Bailey. We knew kickers in the NFL, after having bad games, can have a redemption game. And this is what we saw from Dan Bailey. 5 for 5 on kicks. Now, all of his kicks were within the 25-yard line, so it's not that impressive. Of course, it's Dan Bailey. We're paying him all this money. We would expect that he would make all of his kicks. But once again, after what we saw the last 2 weeks, very impressive performance from Dan Bailey because of how he's played so far this season, or at least these last few weeks. Anyways, the referees. Referees were great yesterday. In fact, Vikings didn't do a whole lot of flags anyways. Vikings, how many flags did we have? Vikings did really good on penalties. There was not many holding fouls. There wasn't much against the Vikings at all. They did a well job. They did a pretty good job considering how the Vikings have done with holding fouls so far this season. It feels like every single third down, the Vikings give up a holding foul. Every time there's a good play, Vikings give up a holding foul. So anyways, now the Vikings are out of the playoff race, and it's better off that we lose these next few games. But once again, I am not going to cheer against my Vikings defense or my Vikings team at all, especially my Vikings defense. I need them to look good. We need this Vikings defense to look like they have potential. These corners do. These corners look great. Outside of that, everyone else on the defense looks awful. Our entire defensive line looking like backups right now. They aren't looking good at all. We need a ton of new pieces on defense, and that's why it's better that the Vikings pick in the 10 so we can get a pass rushing defensive lineman, or even our first pick off of the offensive guard. Of course, grabbing an offensive guard in the first round might not be a great spot to grab an offensive guard, but if we can get the best one in the draft, it will be worth it. Because what we saw from the Vikings, Kirk does not have very much time in the pocket. Not only that, but he doesn't move outside the pocket. He just sits in the pocket and allows sacks. Of course, yesterday he did feel the pressure a lot more and did run for first downs, and Kirk has gotten a lot better with that, and I'm happy about that. But at the same time, it is better off that we lose these games because we need those draft picks. Of course, I'm not going to be cheering against my Vikings, though. And for that reason, we're going to be previewing this matchup on Thursday against the New Orleans Saints, where they will play them on Christmas Day at 3:30 Central Time. It will be the only game on Christmas Day, really, this year. And it's going to be a tough one because, of course, the New Orleans Saints are still first in the NFC. And with Drew Brees coming back, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be really hard for the Vikings. And it's going to depend on how that Saints offense looks. If the Saints offense does not look as good as they should, Vikings can win that game because this offense is great. I will say that right now. Vikings offense is amazing, and they can put up a lot of points against the Saints defense. Even though it is one of the best in the NFL, we can do a lot against the Saints defense. We can, and that starts Justin Jefferson, really. I think Justin Jefferson is going to have a great day against New Orleans Saints on primetime on Christmas Day, and we will be previewing this matchup on Thursday.